If you're outside, you're probably not far from a millipede. They're all over and love munching on dead leaves. Some can be harmful, but most are easy to catch. These creatures with lots of legs, called arthropods, rule the land. They've made a cozy home out of eating leaves. These critters are called millipedes, and they're fascinating little creatures that are everywhere you look when you're outdoors. Millipedes are small animals without a backbone that have been very successful in living on Earth. They can be found everywhere on the planet. If you lift up a big piece of bark in a forest that is no longer alive, you will probably see one of these creatures. Researchers have found over 12,000 kinds of millipedes. These creatures vary in size, from minuscule ones measuring 2 millimeters to larger ones stretching up to 40 centimeters. Some scientists believe there might be even more types, possibly up to 80,000 globally. These fascinating creatures play essential roles in ecosystems, breaking down dead plant matter and contributing to soil health. Millipedes are found in diverse habitats, from rainforests to deserts. Millipedes can be found from Russia to Patagonia. They're creatures with many legs, but their name, thousand-legged, is a bit misleading because no millipede actually has that many legs. Millipedes holds the record for the most legs with 750, which is quite impressive. These critters don't travel much and prefer specific environments, making it easy for different groups to become isolated and evolve into new species. Interestingly, they were once thought to be extinct until 2012 when they were rediscovered in California. Despite their name, they're not quick travelers, preferring to stick to their own little corners of the world. So if you see one, you're probably seeing a neighbor rather than a world traveler. These millipedes are really cool because they fit a bunch of legs into a tiny body that's only 3 centimeters long. One special millipede from California, called Millipedes, may not have the most legs. It has 4 on 14, but it makes up for it with 200 poison glands and 4 penises, which is pretty unique. Then there's the giant African millipede, the biggest of them all, reaching up to 40 centimeters in length. Despite its huge size, it has 256 legs. So there are these fascinating millipedes with lots of legs, some with poison glands and multiple penises, and others that are just enormous. It's amazing how diverse and interesting these creatures can be. On the other hand, there are these fascinating creatures known as pill millipedes, or maybe you've heard of them as roly-polies. And I've got to tell you, they're absolutely my favorite. These small critters boast around 70 legs, which might sound like a lot, but when you compare them to their millipede relatives, they're like the budget-friendly ones who don't splurge on footwear. Imagine that. These little pals have figured out a way to flaunt their style without maxing out their leg count. It's like they've got some kind of leg-saving trick up their sleeves, setting them apart in the world of millipedes. Many folks find millipedes annoying in their gardens, but we might be the ones encroaching on their territory. Millipedes are ancient creatures, existing for over 400 million years. In fact, the oldest recorded penis was discovered in a fossilized millipede, highlighting their long-standing history. During the Carboniferous period, millipedes were the biggest invertebrates on land, showcasing their impressive size. While we may see them as pests today, it's essential to recognize their role as some of the oldest inhabitants of our planet. Perhaps, instead of viewing them as nuisances, we should appreciate millipedes as fascinating survivors with a remarkable history dating back millions of years. Back in those days, there was a bunch of carbon floating around in the air. This made bugs and spiders grow really big, but nothing compared to the Arthropleura millipedes. This beast reached a whopping 2 meters in length. Imagine riding it like a pony, that's how massive it was. Nowadays, our millipedes are much tinier, and sometimes people mix them up with their feisty relatives, the centipedes. However, there are some crucial differences between the two. Let's talk about how millipedes and centipedes are alike and different. First, they both have bodies split into parts and lots of legs. But here's the interesting part. Millipedes have 4 legs on each section, while centipedes only have 2 legs on each part. Imagine that. It makes a big difference in how they move around. Millipedes and centipedes might look similar at first, but their legs set them apart. Millipedes have a total of 8 legs on each segment, which adds up to a lot of legs. On the other hand, centipedes only have 2 legs on each segment, making them a bit speedier. It's fascinating how the size and structure of these creepy crawlies have evolved over time. The ancient giant Arthropleura millipedes would surely turn heads if it strolled around today, and we'd probably prefer the smaller, friendlier millipedes as our tiny companions. Centipedes and millipedes are both kinds of creepy crawly creatures. Centipedes are like tiny monsters. They're venomous and like to eat other animals. On the other hand, Millipedes are more like nature's cleanup crew. They mostly munch on dead plants, although some of them can be a bit poisonous. If centipedes were villains, then millipedes would be the good guys, but not overly so. Distinguishing millipedes from centipedes is simple when you check their legs. Millipedes have many legs, neatly arranged beneath them like a train track. On the other hand, centipedes' legs stick out from their body sides. Despite millipedes having more legs, they're not as speedy as centipedes. Centipedes are agile sprinters, while millipedes are more inclined to dig underground homes than dart around like their swift centipede relatives. Millipedes use their numerous legs to move gracefully and navigate soil for shelter. Their legs give them a slow, deliberate pace, allowing them to burrow and create cozy homes beneath the ground. In contrast, centipedes, with legs protruding outwards, are built for speed and swift movements. This difference in leg structure reflects their distinct lifestyles, with millipedes embracing a slower, subterranean existence, while centipedes excel in rapid, surface-level activities. Millipede legs might not be the fastest out there, but they have a much more crucial job than running. They moonlight as penises. Some of their legs become sexual organs as they grow and molt. The location of the sexual organs depends on the species, but most species have them in the 7th segment. During copulation, the male and the female touch undersides, while the male deposits a sperm capsule in the female's genital openings, which are usually in the 3rd segment. Millipedes face many dangers as various animals consider them a tasty treat. Despite being easy prey for creatures from different groups, millipedes possess a strong defense mechanism in the form of potent chemicals. These chemicals act as a shield against predators. Among the millipede hunters, some assassin bugs specialize in preying on them and have developed immunity to the millipede's poison. While mammals are susceptible to the effects of millipede poison, certain clever ones, such as coatis and meerkats, have adopted a strategy. Before consuming millipedes, they rub the critters on the ground to remove the toxic substances. This precaution allows them to enjoy a millipede meal without suffering the ill effects of the poison. Interestingly, some species have discovered alternative uses for millipedes. Black lemurs, for example, engage in a unique behavior. They capture red millipedes and induce them to release their poison. The lemurs then apply millipede secretions on their bodies to combat parasites. Intriguingly, they also engage in licking the millipedes. This peculiar practice initially induces salivation, but eventually results in a state of euphoria, making the lemurs high. The Metoxia millipedes are like the rock stars of the insect world, especially when it comes to their trippy appearance. Found in the sequoia forest of California, these millipedes not only look psychedelic but also have a cool trick up their sleeves. They produce cyanide. Imagine tiny glowing creatures wandering around the forest at night. That's the Metoxia for you. When the sun sets, their bioluminescence kicks in, turning the forest into a magical light show, with hundreds of them shining like stars. Now, I'm curious, what else would you like to chat about? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to hit subscribe for more fascinating nature nuggets. Thanks a bunch for tuning in.